weeks since I sold off the Forester, so time for a quick update and show you what I've been working on for the last couple of weeks. So something probably a little bit different that I haven't played with before is 50cc scooters. So this half a scooter or whatever's left of it at the moment is a what we call a SYM Jolie in Australia, or I believe they're also known as a DD50 overseas, and based off of a Honda. Like, I can't remember which model it is, but as you can see, I've stripped it all down over the last sort of week or so, just trying to get it running. I've had the bike for a couple of years, and when I bought it, it was barely running and wouldn't start properly. So my first aim is just to strip it all down, then get it running, and then pretty much make it look nice, and then after that I'll sell it off and clean up a bit more room for other projects. So I'll just run you through quickly what I've done last week, apart from stripping all the plastics off. The main thing was the carby, just this one here. Ignore the fact that I've just spilled a little bit of two-stroke oil on it. All the jets in these are tiny, especially the idle jet, and that it was all blocked up, so there was no way it was going to start. So pulled that all apart, cleaned it out with carby cleaner, cleaned up all the jets and the float bowl and float needles, etc. And while I was doing that, then the petrol tank, which is this plastic tank here, pulled that all out, drained all the old fuel and put a new fuel filter on it, just that one there. And the old fuel that came out of it was pretty bad, stank like varnish, and was an orange colour, so pretty good sign of how long it's been sitting for. So those couple of years I said before, could be up to 5 or 6 years of sitting around. So now that that's all been cleaned, new fuel filter, carby's cleaned, while I was at it, because it was easy to get to, cleaned out all the old two-stroke oil and just finished filling that one up as well. That one there. So next step is later this week I'll grab some fuel in a jerry can, put it in and hope for the best. Hopefully we can get it to start up and kick over. There's a fair bit that I'll consider doing. Not sure how far I want to take this bike yet, but I'm getting some silly ideas the more I look into it. So potentially you can get a stretch kit that bolts in here, and I believe you weld on a bracket up here for it as well to stretch them out and make them a bit longer. The wheels, I've seen some custom mags I can get, Chinese branded ones, reasonably cheap, so we might end up doing those. They're only a little 10-inch wheel, but it might look a bit nicer with something else on it. Then change over the grips. These are just looking a bit tired and worn out. Looks like it's leaked out some brake fluid on the handlebar at some point, and the brakes aren't working at the moment, which means it's probably out of fluid, so I need to work out what's happening there and clean up the bars while I'm at it. The frame as well. Now this is where the silly ideas start coming in. Whether I strip the bike completely and have this all re-powder coated and potentially stretch out the frame or do something different with that, but that's probably unlikely. The front forks and front brakes as well, I should have said. Potentially change those over to something bigger and different as well as the rear spring suspension, the exhaust potentially as well. Before I try and start, I'll probably rip that off and just see if it's clogged up with carbon or anything, because apparently it's pretty common on these. And then later down, I might change it out for something else, which will have a flow-on effect to then having to change rollers and carby jets and everything like that again. So you'll see where we end up. I'm not trying to make it into anything crazy, just trying to tidy it up and ready to sell on to someone else and make it into something different. Haven't decided on colours for it yet. Just show you the plastics. I've just got them sitting up in the shed here, and It was originally this silver colour there, and so whether I do it the same silver, probably unlikely because I like to make things a bit different, but considering maybe a pearl white, maybe with some hydro dip carbon fibre bits. Not quite sure. I've got a seat already retrimmed for it, which I won't talk about too much. I'll show you at a later episode, but I spent way too much on the seat and it came out looking really good, but worth probably more than the bike itself. These are just the plastics, headlights, feet sections, I don't even know what you call that, and in front where you got the keys and fuel tank on this model as well. So while we're in here, I'll just give you a quick update on the ute too. So I'm trying to work on both at the same time. I pulled out the fuel sender unit and fuel pump out of the ute, as well as the petrol tank, because it wasn't starting, and I'm pretty sure, despite the fact that I changed that fuel pump not that long ago, as in a couple of years ago, because it's been sitting doing nothing, I'm pretty sure the pump itself is just stuffed. And so which gets me to this part of the ute here as well. So while I got the petrol tank out, the top just had a bit of surface rust and on it, so I've just been sanding that off or grinding it off, and then I'll give it a couple of coats of paint just to make it look a bit nicer, seal it up so it stops rusting as well, before I put the fuel sender unit and tank back in. So it's pretty wintry here in Adelaide at the moment, and trying to work in the carport, there's not much incentive, especially at night time after work. But we'll see how we go, see if we can get this one done. My aim is with the scooter to get it done in the next sort of 2 months or so, so it's ready to sell during spring, or at least ready to paint during spring when the weather's a bit nicer. Anyway, leave it at that for now. Any questions or anything, just chuck them in the comments and I'll happily get back to you. Otherwise, like, share, subscribe. Thanks guys.